one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we are joined by Ethan Duffy, and we are back for episode 1 of season 5 of the year 2025 for the Baggers, the Carlton Football Club, but also us at Baggers Chat for season 5. As I've just said, I'll get it off straight away. It's been a few months since we had an episode, so I probably will be trying to get the cobwebs off, Daffy boy. But first things first, how are you, mate? It's been a long time since we've done an episode, but obviously we've caught up a few times. So how are you to start off with? And how's your the Chrissy and New Year's? Because we haven't done one since since I think it was like end of November. So
Yep.
How was your start of the new year? How's your Chrissy? And how's your Supercoach going, mate, in 2025?
Yeah, well, in the past few years, I haven't been a huge super coach guy, but the last probably 2 seasons, I've kind of got into it. So I'll definitely have a look at that in the next few days. But no, it's been good to have a break. I think, although we love football so much, it's pretty good to get the mind off. And for sports nuffies like us, there's other sports we focus on in the summer, whether it's basketball, soccer, tennis, and anything in between, cricket, whatever, which was fantastic over the summer. But yeah, no, I'm really good. And I was just looking at the date now on my computer, and January 29. It's not far away now, and I think the first Pracky game's obviously the 22nd against St Kilda, and then we've got the Giants in Canberra the week after, and then it really starts to get close, Patto. But I'm excited, and let's hope this preview leads to a premiership at the end of it.
Did you watch the Aussie Open?
Yes, a lot. Yes, too
Did you watch the
much.
final?
I was actually in Lawn, and I watched bits and pieces. It's probably had a few too many bevs, Patto, but we won't get into details. But yes, I did watch bits and pieces.
And did you see? I think it was the quarterfinals when Novak and Sinner. No, Novak and Zverev. My God, my mom was thinking until last year, but when Novak retired straight after he
Mm,
lost the first set, which was a bit interesting.
yeah,
So
yeah, we
uh,
won't get into that. But yeah, I've got probably a few words to say about Novak Djokovic, but I'll keep that off air, Patto.
yeah, we might even do a Novak Djokovic podcast, mate. But we'll try and stick to the thick of things in Carlton, which is something that we've both absolutely loved doing for the past few years, and we are so excited to be back for season 2025, but also season 5. So first thing that we will touch on, and we launched it last night on our social media, and you might be seeing right now that we are wearing a Baggers Chat shirt, and it isn't just printed on; it is a shirt that we have actually brought out, and we now obviously have merch. So it is now available on our Instagram bio, but it will also be in the link of the description of this video. So make sure if you would like to go and check out our merch. We don't just have shirts, we also have some jumpers, and we also have a coffee mug. But so make sure to check that out. And over the next few months, we definitely will release a bit more merch if it all goes well. But I mean, it's always good to try and do stuff like that because I mean, obviously we haven't really done anything like this before, so it was
Mm.
kind of a good thing to learn the whole side of merge and trying to get to know all that. And I mean, I've had an absolute blast trying to do it. So absolute. So make sure to try and get around that if you would like some merch. But as I said, link in the description of the video. But Duff, we'll get straight to the swing of things, and we'll just touch on a few things before we touch on the season preview for 25. And obviously, since the last episode there's been a bit of news that's come out. And the first thing that we'll touch on is obviously Luke Sayers stepping down as our president. So, Duff, this is a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of, I guess, news about this situation. I don't think we'll touch on it too much because I think we've kind of missed the boat just a little bit on it. But obviously, the people who don't know, there was a situation on Twitter that Luke Sayers was hacked, and I think AFL have actually come out and said that there was no sort of activity that was on his behalf. So he was kind of cleared, but a few hours later, he pretty much said, I will step away from the club. And I think it was a good thing to do that because he kind of knew that the whole year that kind of will be lingering around the club. And if
Mm.
your president is kind of through that, that for the whole year, I think that will kind of lead to a bit of distraction within the club, which you probably don't really want. So I
No.
mean, my opinion is I think it's really good that he did that because it was obviously clear that he didn't do anything and he was hacked. But then also for him to then step away from the club, I think like there's some people saying that he's completely guilty if he does that. My opinion is I think he puts the club first and he did that purely for the club. But what was your thoughts on that? Because we haven't actually spoken about it. So I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think for me, I've kind of looked at it both sides. Initially, I thought it was definitely him, and then yeah, I don't think we've seen the full picture. I don't think he's fully out of harm's way. I think I don't know if that was him doing that or something. He's done something else, and maybe someone's tried to, let that out in the public. I don't know. I don't really want to touch on that kind of stuff. But like you said, I think it was good that he stepped down. And for me, I think he's been fantastic since he became president. So I have nothing else, I have nothing really bad to say. I remember 2023 when I think it was probably midway during the year, and he had that press conference out the front of the club, and he was going, "Oh no, we can still make finals," and everyone was laughing at him. And we did end up almost making a grand final. So I think his kind of leadership was good, and he just cut the shit and made shit happen. Whether it was, sacking the fitness boss or making moves in the off season, whatever, whether it's, on field or off field, he seemed to kind of know what he's doing. But yeah, I wish him all the best. It's probably a terrible situation for his family. I know he was away in Italy with his family at the time, so that would have been horrible. That would have been horrible. You don't wish that on your worst enemy, but yeah, it's a good idea to, get the distraction out of the way. I did listen to Zach Williams yesterday on Channel 10, and he was saying that, they asked him about the whole situation, and he just said, that after the first few days, you kind of move on. So it's good to hear that they're focusing on, what to do out in the park rather than what's going on off the park.
Yeah, and then I think that was the main thing that was going through the club, just making sure that this isn't a like any sort of distraction, because we all know that these sort of situations will kind of lead to a distraction, even in like another way, like a few years ago with Melbourne, with the
Yes.
the the distractions outside the club, and it's got really nothing to do with their on-field performance, but
No.
whatever happens off-field, it kind of always lingers within the club. So I think it was just my opinion. I mean, I completely agree about. I think more news will come out over the next few weeks and months, and we won't touch any more about that, but I just think right now in this point in time, I think it was really good that he stepped away. So like straight away,
Yep.
he kind of knew that it probably wasn't a good idea for him to be president anymore. So
Mm.
he just put his hand up, which I think is a great thing to do. So I'm sure there will be more news about it, but I don't think we will touch on it anymore within the podcast. But Duff, the next thing we'll touch on is Sam Walsh, and he obviously had a hamstring injury on the 14th of January, and he was out for a month from that period of time. So he should be back 29th of Jan today. Probably should be back within the next week or two.
Mm.
So your thoughts on that? Because it's been a few years since Sam Walsh has had a full preseason, and he looked really good before Christmas. We were really excited to see how he will go heading into the next half of the preseason, then heading into the start of the season. Now he's got a hamstring injury, and it's another soft tissue injury. What's your thoughts on this? Because we've kind of known Sam Walsh to have that back injury, but now he has a soft tissue injury with a hamstring injury, and I believe
Mm.
he has had a hamstring injury or maybe a calf over his AFL career, which is quite concerning. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember when the news first came out, I was worried it was the back again. I didn't read it. It comes up on the headline, injury, whatever, out for a few weeks. I was like, oh no. But obviously, it's not ideal. Far from ideal. A hamstring injury and a pretty, out for a month is a pretty big hamstring injury. It's not a 1 or 2 weeker. So let's be real. He's going to play round one, isn't he? So, you get full training in, hopefully play one of the practice games, and then you get straight into round one. So we're not playing opening round, so you get another week. You got another week off. So, yeah, let's be real. It's terrible, but he'll be playing round one, and he's probably had the longest preseason he's had in the last 2 to 3 years. He's left it till 14th of January to get an injury, but no, I think he looks good. He was training yesterday in a small capacity, so I'm expecting him to be raring to go, and hopefully, touch wood, he's dominating the MCG.
Well, I don't know about you, Daft Boy. I know that you mentioned before about Patrick Cripps potentially winning his third Brownlow, but I have Sam Walsh winning his first Brownlow this year,
Yeah, yep.
just quietly. So
Mm,
if he can get his body right, we all know
yep.
what he can do on the field. And obviously, I'm kidding a little bit about Sam Walsh winning a Brownlow this year. I think he's a little bit far off that at the moment.
Yeah.
But like the big players perform in finals, Sam Walsh was one
Mm,
of those players in 2023. Like if
yep.
you, I don't know why. A few days ago, I look back and watch the Melbourne versus Carlton game. I reckon that's probably the 143,000 time that I've watched the
Uh,
semi final. But seeing Sam Walsh go about it when he's fully fit,
yep.
finals footy in front of it's like I think we are missing that. We are crying out for
Mm,
a midfielder that is like very agile but also quite damaging. We have
mm,
it in Sam Walsh,
yeah. Yeah.
and it's just when he's fit,
Mm,
his best football is like he can produce his best football, and he's probably our best player.
yep.
And I like, in my opinion, I think he can have more impact than a Patrick Cripps right now, because I think Cripps can take a step back. Because I think
Mm,
Sam Walsh and his the way that he plays his football, he can be so damaging, and I think that his impact can like his best football can impact more games than what a Patrick Cripps can do, and that's like we know how much of an impact Patrick Cripps can have in a game,
mm,
but that just shows how I think how I see Sam Walsh, because I think his best football is probably one of the best out there. And I know that
yep.
that is probably a little bit biased, but I'm just so excited, and I just want him to be fit from now on until opening round. Have a few because he still has a bit of time. It's not like
No,
on a
yeah.
chase it's not like he's chasing the clock. He's well and truly primed, and it's a hamstring injury. It's only a month, so it probably wasn't even a month injury. It's probably maybe 2 weeks, and just making sure that he gets through.
Yep.
But opening round, well, I mean not opening round, round one against the
Mm.
Tigers. Let's hope he can give a bit of Sam Lawler and Josh Smiley a bit of a bit of lip, but that's probably enough for Sam Walsh and what we'll touch on. But hopefully he'll be back training within the next few weeks. But the last thing that we'll touch on in terms of the injury side of things, Daff, is Nick Newman. And
Mm.
he is out for the season with a knee injury. So extremely, I guess, very, very disheartening hearing this, because you know how
Mm.
much um, you know how important he is in the backline, but also how hard Nick Newman works and how much
Yes.
every
Yeah.
single Carlton supporter loves Nick Newman. Like
Mm.
last year, it was Jack Silvani and the the navy blue heart that these players have, and it's probably like the Jack Silvanis, the Patrick Cripps, and probably Nick Newman is one of those players. I know that
Mm.
he started his career at Sydney, but ever since he's kind of come to Carlton with that leadership role in 2019, he's been really good. So
Yep.
I'm really flat about hearing this injury, but let's hope that they also have the mindset of let's try and make a season out of this for Nick Newman, like we did maybe
Yep.
last year for Jackson Vane. So your thoughts on this injury? It's extremely like it's a very bad injury, because obviously it's a season-ending injury. But your thoughts on his knee injury, and is this quite concerning for the rest of his career? Because he obviously has had a few knee injuries in his career.
Yeah, it's such a disappointing result for him. Obviously he's come top three in the BNF the last 2 years, which just shows that he's one of those players that we really need. And there's just something about him. Every week you just trust him to do the job, whether he's playing on a supreme A grade small forward, or he changes his role where we need him to be the ball user. He can be both. So very disappointing. He's 31 years old, so that doesn't help either. He's getting to the later stages of his career, and I wish him all the best in the recovery. And I did read something yesterday on Twitter that he's finding different ways to try and get himself back for the later stage of the season. So he's going to try everything and everything to try and make it for the last. And I would not count him out. We all counted out Doc last year, and I know the decision to play him was very interesting, but let's be real. Anyone could have played that day and we would have been 60-0 down. So, but yeah, no, I hope he goes all right. And if he comes back this year, he comes back this year. But we know his leadership within the group on, whether it's just training and on the field. I'd imagine he'd do a similar thing to Doc, sit on the bench, be that kind of leader because he's that type of operator, I think.
Mm. I think the two players that can really that can come back from a injury that quick is probably a Sam Doherty and a Nick Newman within our club.
Mm,
So I mean, when I saw that it was a season-ending injury, I'm like, yeah, but last year Doc had an
mm,
ACL, so
mm.
you kind of do think about it. I mean, I think it's quite unlikely at this stage that he will
Yeah.
play any football this year, but they like it's kind of never say never sort of attitude within Nick Newman. So I think he will go into this year expecting to not play at all and probably be more that mentor or the coach on the side
Yep.
for the younger players like a Billy Wilson, but also make sure that he's going well with his rehab because
Hmm.
there could be a point in the season, maybe round 23, round 24, where he could actually see himself sliding into this team because also it's not he's a 100% locked back into this side, and that's what we will touch on right now. After this is obviously who will replace Newman.
Mm.
Whoever does come in to replace that Nick Newman role could be performing really well, and it might be really hard to have Nick Newman. Like it might be a bit of a risk to
Yeah.
bring Nick Newman in. So we'll move straight now to some names to consider to replace Nick Newman um, this year, and I'll kind of just go through all of them, and you can kind of just touch on with who you think might be a really big chance, and kind of go through all of them and kind of give your opinion on who you like the percentage, I guess, of what you think could be in that Nick Newman role. So the first name that we'll touch on is Jordan Boyd. He's one of those players that you probably would expect maybe to be in the best 22, but
Yeah.
heading into this year, Lockie Cowan's really improved his football. Nick Haynes is coming back into the side. I mean, he's obviously making his debut for
Mm.
Carlton this year. Jack Silvani's training down back. You've got Brody Kemp as well, who is obviously training to be a forward, but he can also slide back. There's a few players there. So Jordan Boyd's one of those players that definitely could be in the best 22, but isn't a lock. So the next one is one of the players that I've already mentioned is Billy Wilson. He's one of those players that is a left footer and kind of does play a little bit like Nick Newman. I know he's a little bit young, but maybe that might be an opportunity for Billy
Mm.
Wilson. I've heard a few rumors, well, not rumors, but just a few suggestions within Carlton groups that Zach Williams might slide back, which I'm not too much of a fan about right now. Whether someone really improves in the forward line like a National Moyer or a Corey Dern and really stands out, and potentially you could send Zach Williams back, but I don't think there's any chance of that happening because I think Zach Williams, his impact in front of the ball is
Yeah.
is what we need right now heading into 25. The next player, Sam Doherty. So he is a player that has kind of transitioned into a midfielder, more playing on the wing, but he can also slide back because we
Mm.
know how good of a footballer he is when he plays off the half back flank. He's obviously an All Australian, I think maybe a two-time All Australian off the half back flank. So he can definitely slide back there. And the last player before I throw to you, Daff, is Ollie Hollins. So
Mm.
when he was training to be a back last year, we were a little bit like, oh, I wonder why. And it's always good
Mm.
to have a few tricks up your sleeve for the like your whole career because you know that you've kind of trained yourself to be in the halfback if you ever need it.
Yep.
Now an opportunity has arisen really
Mm.
with Ollie Hollins, and now that he's kind of trained himself to be a halfback flank, he probably still might play on the wing. But my opinion, out of all these players right now,
Mm.
Ollie Hollins is probably my pick at the moment because I think the way that I've seen the vision of the training clips the past few weeks, Ollie Hollins seems to be that main player and the main distributor off the halfback
Mm.
flank, which I've really liked. So
Yeah.
I'll throw to you now, Duff. What's your thoughts on all those names? What's your thoughts overall?
Yeah, no, it's I think it's probably. I'm not saying an injury is good, But if we're going to get an injury and it's a half back, we're not short on them. We're not short on half back. So, as your list here shows, that doesn't include Sardi. That doesn't include obviously Chincotta's out half the year. So, we've got plenty of half backs, almost too many. But with these names, probably the three names I think that will probably shift back. Not shift back, but probably play that role or play a halfback role or some sort of defensive role. I think it's a big year for Jordan Boyd. I think he proved to me that he can play one on one against the really good players, which I think is massive. Which ultimately will keep Zach Williams forever out of the defence because I just don't think he defended well enough last year. That's why he went shifted forward and we changed it up a bit. I think it's so important to have a guy who can use the footy but also defend. Where you look at Newman, you look at Sard's improvement as well. I think that's kind of the way we're structuring our defence because I think a lot of teams have these guys that they can use the footy, but they tried to hide them on defence, whether they take the sixth best forward. They don't really, there's always a 2v1 with them involved. So clearly they want all six defenders to be able to defend the footy and defend their opponent. I think that's important. You don't want to have that, when you're watching and you're going, oh, like we kind of, like when you look at Zach Fisher when he was playing a halfback, it was a bit like, oh, like I don't think he can beat his opponent. I just don't. But yeah, so Boydie, Doc can go back. I still feel like they're going to push him onto a wing and kind of half forward mid. I think he's at that age now where he just can float around a little bit. And I like your point with Hollands. I think he'll definitely play halfback this year. So that would open a spot up for Doc. I don't mind a Doc at the Acres wing. You got other names in there too that can roll through there, whether it's, you got Cotters, you got Bins. So that's very good depth as well. I don't know how much they love Cotters, and let's be real, sometimes we are harsh on our players. He's been a pretty consistent performer and a consistent runner, so it's not like he can't fill that Ollie Hollands wing position too. But yeah, like I said, so many halfbacks, and I'm just intrigued to see how we go about it come practice games because it's good that the injury didn't come a week before the season where you're not prepared. So you can have a month and a half to sort it out, and hopefully whoever's in that position come round one is raring to go.
Yeah, no, spot on. The one thing I will touch on as well about Blake Acres because he had an interview about how he was mentioning that
Yeah.
Sam Doherty was training with the mids and Ollie
Mm.
Hollands. He hasn't seen Ollie Hollands in a few days because he's
Exactly.
obviously
Yeah.
playing at the back. So
That shows you.
yeah, so I think that's quite promising because we know that last year we were a little bit like, he's just not a half backup. But now that he's transitioned himself, I guess, to
Mm.
learn that a bit more in the half back because now that he's like there's no games on at the moment, so he can just spend all of his time and energy
Mm.
learning the craft in the halfback role, I guess, like
Mm.
in the defensive half alongside Sard and a Wiedering and a McGovern, like these
Yeah.
guys. Another player, I mean, another thought, I guess, that I was thinking about is potentially Mitch McGovern being more as that halfback flank
Yeah.
because I love his ball use. I don't think it
Yeah.
will happen because I think he still gets enough of the footy anyway. But
Yeah.
I think his ball use is one of the
Mm.
best that we have in the off the half back. And I
Yeah.
reckon he could be utilised in that sort of role a little bit more. Like maybe it opens up a
Mm.
opportunity for like a Silvani to come back as that to play that McGovern role,
Yeah.
and Mitch McGovern can still intercept, but he's actually getting a little bit more of the footy now as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will happen, but that's just saying that I thought I would
Mm. Mm.
throw out there because I love his ball use, but I
Yeah.
think right now I think we both agree that Ollie Hollands is probably that player right now to cover.
Yeah, I think so. I'd say, yeah. I think Hollands will play there anyway, but I think Boyd, the position is opened up for Boyd with Newman's injury, I think.
Yeah,
And I completely agree with McGovern. I was thinking about it a few weeks ago that he can play on the smalls as well. So he's got the pace. So, sometimes you have those defenders that might be a bit taller, but they play on the smaller guys, whether it's, you're playing on a Charlie Cameron or you're playing on a Toby Green. I think people always just think, oh, yeah, he's that height, let's line them up, play them. It's not about that. It's not about that. So that would be an interesting proposition, and it can be a good weapon to have because he can defend really well now, and he's got that ball use, like you said.
It could be like a bit of a Caleb Marchbank role, mate.
Oh God, can we not talk about that? Jesus Christ, the amount of energy both of us have wasted talking about that man. When you think about it, like we're talking about our fifth season, and I'm sure people listening, uh, relating the same way. How many players have put so much energy into whether it's Caleb Marchbank, Jack Martin, and Cunningham, and now they're all gone. Now they're all gone. So I don't know who the fuck we're going to talk about.
Uh, and Tom McKeely's gone as well.
Yeah, well, he's gone. He's probably playing Division Two down in local footy or something.
What a shame. Shout out to those players, actually.
Yeah,
But we love you. But if you play for another AFL club, we don't love you. And
no,
Jack Martin, we don't love you at the moment. So, last thing we'll touch on before we move on to a bit of what we think might happen in season 2025 is Adam Chera and Adam Saad, the double Adams, commit to the club for. Obviously, Chera has signed on until 2030, and Adam Saad has signed on until 2026. So, Daf, Chera, 5-year deal. It is quite it's a deal that has brought up a bit of controversy, in particular Kane Corns. But I think it's a deal that he's on a lower pay packet. So I think if he is taking less money, I think you have to give him more years
yeah,
in
yeah.
a small way.
Mm.
But it is quite interesting because it's not like he has had a full year since probably 2023, I think maybe.
Well, not even that.
Even that he was injured, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say 22 was probably his first year. I think he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he started having hammy issues. So
Yeah.
you look at it like that, it's not very good.
It is it is quite an interesting one. So actually, I'll throw it straight to you. Like, I
Mm.
mean, touch on Adam Sard first if you want to, but probably go into a little bit more depth as well about Cher and what you think about this deal because I think I don't really want to say it's no risk because it kind of is a risk
It is, yeah.
because it's 2030, and you've got a guy has signed on, and I know that nowadays AFL contracts kind of don't really matter. It's kind of more like yeah, signed to 2030 to make sure that you play in the AFL. It's not like you're
Yes,
signed to the
yes.
club. So
Yeah.
it is an interesting one, but I guess your thoughts, like if you want to touch on Adam Sard first about
Mm.
2026, because I think that is quite straightforward and quite self-explanatory, but touch on Chera as well. So, because I actually want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I was quite happy with, just ticking off a few guys who are free agents. We've got a fair few in the next couple of years. So, yeah, Sardi's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? It's just an extra year. So, yeah, I think with those guys, when they get to that age, I think he's 30 now. So, no, he's in his prime of his career. So he'd have another 4 or 5 years. Obviously, hopefully his body holds up. Halfback roles usually last a little bit longer, don't they? Especially with his speed. So, yeah, no, that's good. Tick that away. He's never going to leave Carlton. He's a Carlton man. So, Chera, yeah, I'm positive about it. I've obviously had a bit of talk about him over the last year or so. He went to Qatar over the off season to go to this soft tissue doctor, some specialist that the world's best athletes go to fix their soft tissues. He's training well. I'll tell you what, Patto. If we can get the best of him in this season and the next few seasons, that'll be very promising. You got him, Walsh, and Chera. And Cripps is 30. No, him, Walsh, and Chera. Him, sorry for the first blooper of 2025. Chera, Walsh, and Jagger Smith.
Yeah.
And
God.
Cripps is 30, but he's got another 5.
Yeah.
And obviously he's the later part of his career. But people seem to be when people hit 30, it's like, oh no, he's just come off a Brownlow. So you got those 4 for the next 5 years. Like, gee whiz, if they can all get going, especially him and Walsh, if they can stay fit for 90% of the season, including finals, then you just never know what happens. But yeah, I'm happy with it. And then you just go lock him away and have to think about it. Like if he had a good year this year and then he's a free agent, then you go, oh,
Yeah.
there'll be a few clubs looking at him, which I'd imagine there would have been anyway, just because he's a classy operator. But yeah, I'm happy with both of them. And like you said before we recorded, let's hopefully get TDK over the line and whoever else over the line as well.
Yeah, I think by memory, I probably should have checked it before the episode actually, but I think McGovern's one of them as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yep.
Motlop even as well
Mm,
because he's been
mm.
there now for 3 years or so. Um, but yeah, I think the main ones were like Chera,
Yep.
TDK, Sard, McGovern. I think those were the four, or maybe there are a few others. I think
Mm.
George Hewitt as well. Actually,
Yep.
I think Hewitt might be another player. But um, now that I come to think about it, I think it might be Nick Newman as well.
Yeah. Maybe.
So that's
Yeah.
quite interesting,
Well,
actually.
I think with we got Walsh next year, end of next year. So I think TDK might be next year as well, but it's usually the year before, isn't it? That they kind of people listening right now. Let's just put it all out there. Oh, he will not leave Carlton TDK, so we don't have to worry about that. So if you're driving to work right now, you're driving home from work, and you keep thinking about TDK, just assure you, just remember, come back to this when he resigns. Ethan Daffy says TDK will resign, and it'll be. I've already got the graphic ready for our socials. Got that ready about a month ago. It'll be a 5, 6 year deal, I think, and it'll get over the line, and he'll be a Carlton player forever.
And worst case, mate, at the end of the year, just change the TDK to SDK. That's the worst case. Worst
Mm,
case. That's
mm.
all
Yeah,
right. Oi. But all right. So I just thought I would quickly just research. I'm on
yeah,
shout out to footywire.com.
yeah,
I did a very quick research and I just thought I would see and it actually says here. So I'll go through the names quickly. And these are players that are out of contract this year.
yep,
There's still a shit ton. Alex Chincotta,
yep. No
Billy Will,
guarantee. He's no
no guarantee.
guarantee.
Yep, no guarantee. Billy Wilson, Brody Kemp,
Yep,
Cooper Lord,
yep,
Georgie Hewitt,
yep,
Harry Charlson,
yep.
Harry Lemmy,
Yes, yep, yep,
interesting one. Jack Silvani,
yep. He'll resign.
Jesse Motlop,
Massive year ahead.
Mitch McGovern,
All good.
Nick Nick Newman,
1 year.
yeah, Nick Haynes,
Superstar.
Orazio Fantasia,
Interesting.
Robert Monahan. He
Gone.
hasn't, yeah. I think, I mean, there probably could be an opportunity now with Nick Newman because he
Yeah,
could
yeah.
be trained, but
He does it. I've watched him play. I don't think
yeah,
he's ready yet or
yeah,
ready at all.
yeah. So maybe we might give him just another year to
Yep.
see because he hasn't really had the opportunity. I'm not too sure. Sam Doherty is another one that
Yep.
is out of contract.
That's a big one.
That is a big one, huge. And obviously the last one is Tom Nicotti. So your thoughts, if you want to touch
Mm,
on any in a little bit more depth of those players, because there are still a few.
yeah.
And that's not even including Sard and Chera, who we just signed.
Yeah.
So overall, what's your kind of thoughts with that? Because there's still plenty of players there, like a Kemp, like a Lord, like a Hewitt, like a Silvani, like a Lemmy,
Mm.
that probably need to be re-signed.
Do they all need to be re-signed?
Not sorry, not
Yeah.
need to be
No,
re-signed. They
I
need
get
to have
you.
a big year
Yeah. Yeah.
to to be re-signed.
Yeah. Well, I look at, if Jesse Motlop has a big year, he could be in for a few offers elsewhere.
Yeah,
Back home, I'd imagine. I think he'll have a massive year for us. I think he'll be our third highest goal kicker. So, no, but you look at Hewitt will re-sign. They wouldn't let Kennedy go if they weren't going to re-sign
yeah.
Hewitt. TDK, hopefully. Razio's interesting. Most of them really depends on their body of work, I think, for this year. So we'll get into that later in the year, but there's so many names there, isn't there? I think there'll be a couple more just before the season. Usually seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, no, well said. So we'll now move on, Daff, to I guess what's ahead in 2025 and some predictions as to
Yep.
what we might think might happen in the year and how we might think the season, how the season might go. So The first thing we'll touch on is, I guess, any position changes that we kind of think might be a go. And obviously, we've already touched on Ollie Hollands. We've already touched on Brody Kemp and Jack Silvani. They're training to be in the back and the forward, but we don't know if that will actually happen when the season actually starts. So, is there any players in your head right now is pretty much a lock in your head, or might be an outside chance to then change a position towards the end of the year, like a Zach Williams last year?
Mm.
Is there any players right now other than the players that we've touched on?
No, I think I actually I think Kemp's a very high chance of playing if it's depends on a Moya, depends on the fitness of Motlops and Durdens and guys like that. So I was listening to Harry's interview and he was talking about Williams and Kemp training and he says they're phenomenal. He says he just in term I know they always say they train in the house down, whatever, but I think it's more the ability to be selfless. They know that those two know they aren't the guys down there. They can be, but I mean, Brody Kemp, like you're going three options. You're going Harry, Charlie, and Brody Kemp. Of course, he's going to be the third guy. Think of Zach Williams. Let's be real. Motlop should be ahead of him. They should be ahead of him, but he will have an impact. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about Jack Silvani. There's been a lot of talk about that. That'll be very interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
the way he plays, I think we might have spoken about in the past few years whenever we have injuries in defence that he kind of has that. Oh, he just has something in him that I can picture him just doing a winning spoil or a winning smother. He throws his body at the ball. He knows the best thing about a forward going back is they know how the forwards work as well. So they know the craft of being a forward. So it makes it a little bit easier to read it when you're a defender. Which you look at Liam Jones. He's a forward for the first 8 years of his career, goes down back, everyone goes, oh, but then you actually start to read it a little bit easier because you know where the leading patterns are, you know where, I'm not saying you know everything what the forward's doing, but yeah, I'm excited about it and it adds depth to both ends of the ground as well. Like if we go, oh, Harry's out for a game or whatever, we don't go, oh no. You know what I mean? We don't go, oh, no, we're stuffed. But you bring in a Brody Kemp or a Lemmy or whatever. I want to get to the point where if a Charlie doesn't play, I want to be going to the game going, we will still win this game. So I don't want to get to the point where you go, oh, I mean, like where the back end of the year where it was I think it was the Port Adelaide game and Harry pulled out late. And everyone's like, oh, geez. And it did hurt us because it was just structurally at the time, we didn't have the depth. So, yeah, exciting.
Mm. Is there a I guess a time that you can consider in the back line having Wiedering, Haynes, McGovern, and also having Silvani as that fourth
Mm.
or third kind of tall down there, or
Mm.
so like I'll ask Silvani or Kemp as that third or fourth tall? Because my opinion is I don't see that at all. I think that's
No,
been our
no.
problem is
Yeah.
we can't be too tall. So
Mm.
can you see that in any way?
Uh, I think it depends on the team sometimes. I think if you're playing a team that's, historically tall, you might look at a Collingwood. I think where they've got a Cox, Membry, McStay, you know what I mean? There's a few talls in there. So you don't want to be undersized where, sometimes when you look at selection, you go, we should have brought whoever in or Lewis Young in, but we're afraid to play him. But then you go, well, he can match up well against the Cox or something like that. So I think I agree with you. I think consistently we won't be playing that many talls. But I think when the time comes, whether you play, and obviously Brisbane's got no Danaher, but historically they've got some tall lads down there, whether it's Big O rolling through there. So I'd love to see it in the Pracky games. It's going to be a big watch. It's going to be a massive watch. And I think that's the beauty. People go, oh, practice games, just a practice game. Well, not really. It's important. It's 2 games. You're not playing for points. You can fuck up without people bagging you on a review on Baggers Chat. You know what I mean? So that's where he worked the combinations out, and you'll see Kemp up forward, you'll see Silvani down back, and also guys like Hollands as well in defence.
Mm. So right now, I know it's quite a tough question, but knowing that the back line probably is quite set with the three talls
Mm.
and the three smalls, or maybe the additional play like maybe 7 players, and whether that's
Yeah.
been Cowan and the Sards and the Jordan boys or the Hollands, whoever in that forward line. Obviously, it's going to be Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow. Right now, I would like to have that third tall.
Yes.
Right now, would you choose Jack Martin? Golly gosh, Jack Silvani or Brody Kemp? Right now, in this point in time, because I've got a clear answer in my head, but I want to see what you say.
I think if you're training for a position, you play Kemp. I think Jack's looking like he's in defence. He won't be there all season. I reckon there'll be times where he will have to go forward, but um, yeah, I think you go those three, and then you just go Moyer, Williams, Motlop, and then you maybe go Durden. Fogarty's not a lock as well, so
Yeah.
it's going to be. There's going to be headaches at the selection table. There was last year, especially when you're playing well. So if everyone's fit and it comes to round one, that the selection is going to be interesting. And I think people are going to be playing for spots come these practice games. So I think there'll be some high quality bracket games coming up.
Yeah. And then I was also thinking as well about like Elijah Hollins.
Yes.
Like, oh,
Like he could play on a wing.
yeah.
He could replace his brother and play on the wing instead because you might not be able to fit him that far forward. Like in terms of if you got Moya, who I want to play every single
Yeah.
game. I don't care if he has 2 touches.
Yeah.
I want him playing every game. Obviously, there's got to be some sort of level. We can't be having 2 touches every week, but he's one of those guys you need in the side. So, he'll be in the side with Williams, and I think Motlop looks good. I think everyone spoke about his form last year. He missed 20 games or something. Like you can't get into the season and you can't get into your peak form if you just miss that many games, unless you're a freak. You know what I mean? Unless you're Sam Walsh or, Charlie Curnow just rolling up. Even those guys, they just don't roll into, perfect form. So it's off the back of this work they're putting in now, and hopefully he doesn't stub his toe in the preseason game again.
Yeah. One more thing as well about this whole the overall position change is I am seeing it more as I would right now in this point in time, and I know it's funny, but I would rather Jack Silvani playing that forward line rather
Mm,
than Brody Kemp, and it's a funny one.
mm.
But I think Brody Kemp, have we seen Brody Kemp alongside Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, both of them? I don't think we have.
Maybe one. Yeah, it's usually one or the other.
Maybe, yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I agree. I think they can both play it, but
Yeah.
if they're training for it, I don't want
Yeah.
guys just you know what I mean. That's the thing for me. It's like I feel like it's almost just using all that hard work to just play in the wrong position again. And I think for Jack Silvani, he needs a little bit of consistency
Yes.
in terms of his position. Like I know I heard him in the interview earlier, and you having a little bit of a joke that he'll end up playing in the ruck anyway, but which he could. You just never know. But yeah, I'd just like to see him have a go in defence. Just I'd like to and camp up forward, but it really depends. And who knows? They could have anything up their sleeve, but from what we're hearing, what we're both hearing, it's looking like that's probably the main position changes.
Yep. Yep. No, very well said. So, Daph, let's now move on to something that we've been quite excited about. And it's some predictions for the year. So, usually we touch on a few more things, but I think we've kept
Yep.
it quite short just because I think these ones are quite important. And these are probably all the ones that we really need to touch on. So, the first thing that we'll do for 2025 is the Carlton Best and Fairest. So, who do you think is going to be the Carlton Best and Fairest at the end of the year?
I like to think differently. I like to think differently.
Dom McHugh.
It's no, it's going to be Cripps again. I think I'd back Cripps in for his consistency. He's our best player. He's our most impactful player. He plays every week. He plays in the middle. He's a brute, and I think he's going to win the best and fairest again. But I would like him not to win it. But if he wins it and we win a premiership, I couldn't give a rat's ass. But I would like to see whether it's a Chera or a Walsh or even a Curnow, someone else taking that kind of taking Newman's votes and being that kind of unsung type of Wiedering could win it. You just don't know. But at the end of the day, I think all those guys are a chance.
Bit of an outlandish one for mine. Best
All
and
right.
fairest. Harry Mackay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's who I have right now.
Yep.
And this is kind of subject to change. But
I like it.
right now it's Harry Mackay. And for a bit of I will ask you the same thing. Actually, I'll ask you now.
Yeah.
Is there an outside chance who might make a top three or top five for this year in your head right now? I know it's tough.
That's tough. It is really, really tough. I'll say top six. Actually, no. No, no. I'll wait for this from a big call, but maybe someone else like I think Adam Sard will be in the top three.
Mm.
I don't think he was at 100% last year. So he had hammy issues. So, of course, the typical Carlton hammy issues. But Andrew Russell, but anyway, he's gone. So, no, I think Assad is probably another kind of outsider. Not an outs. He's not an outsider, but you know
Yeah,
what I mean. He's probably not in the top five, four favorites.
yeah. My player who I think is going to be top three. I'm not even saying top five. I'm saying top three. And I've said I don't know why. I've said it the past
Yeah.
few weeks, few months. I've never said it to you, which is
Okay.
quite funny because I usually say everything to you about Carlton.
Yeah.
Blake Acres top three.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. I think so. And it looks like he's heading into round one with no niggles or anything because he didn't train before Christmas.
Mm,
Still non-contact, but I agree. I think he's consistently good,
yeah.
underrated around the
Yes.
league, underrated in our, well, he's rated in our supporter base, but I think some of his games where he's underrated by myself. A lot of the stage of the season where you just go, sometimes he might have, you just go, oh, okay, he's had 25 and
Mm,
really had an impact. So, yeah, no, I agree with that.
yeah. Because I'm even thinking it's very outlandish. I know. Because even last year, I think the predictions I said,
Uh.
I think I said Matt Cottrell, All Australian. And I'm like, I'm not too sure about that, mate.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
no. But I just think right now, I think Blake Acres could be.
Yep.
I mean, obviously he's our best winger, but
Mm,
he has he
mm.
been All Australian at Fremantle? Don't think he
No,
was.
he might have been in the
The
40
squad.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah, he might have been. I don't even know.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely should be pushing for if we win, and I think if we come top four, he plays every single week to
yeah.
his ability, I think he can get there.
Mm. But we all know that the All Australian squad they don't pick wingers,
No,
which
no,
annoys the
no,
living fuck out of
no.
me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but we'll move on from that, Daffy boy. But we'll now move on to a player that I mean, well, a segment I guess that is a bit similar to the best and fairest, but it's the most improved. So this could be a player that is kind of around that top three, top five in the best and fairest to really catapult towards winning
Yeah.
it or maybe second place. So who do you have as your most improved player right now for season 2025?
Wow. Jesse Motlop, I
Mm,
think. I think he's going to kick 35 goals this year. I think it's going to be him. I think for a premiership side, you look at a lot of premiership teams and you look at your two key forwards. I look at Hawthorn in their prime. This is obviously the best of the best. Ruffy, they had Buddy, and they got Cyril, right? Cyril's output was 10 times of probably the next best small forward, maybe not that much, but like they just kick a lot. Their output is huge. They win you games where, Motlop kicks 4 goals when Harry might be down. You know what I mean? We just didn't have that last year. We just did not have that for long enough last year. I think in that block of games where we won 5, 6 in a row. But other than that, most of our wins or even our losses were coming. Our goals were coming from our two keys. So we've got to find a way to. I know the mids can chip in as well, but I think it'll be the big three. I think it'll be Harry, Charlie, and Motts. I think Charlie will kick the most, but I think those three. I think if they combine for what do you reckon is a good number, 100 plus, go go 110.
I reckon even more. Yeah.
110, 120, those three combined, then it'll probably be a pretty successful season. So I think he'll be the most improved.
Like so, like Charlie could kick
Mm. Yeah.
50, Mackay could kick 50,
Yeah.
Motlop 35. That's
Yeah.
I
When you
mean,
think about it like
realistically, that's
that,
135 there.
yeah, It
So,
sounds easy. It sounds easy. And I think it should be. I think a 30 goal, 35 goal season is what Jesse should be pushing for.
yeah. My most improved, I've kind of thought about it, and as soon as I see the segment, a certain player
Mm.
comes into my mind, Lockie Cowan.
Yeah.
I think you don't hope injuries on anyone.
No.
It, I think Nick Newman going out opens up that avenue, I guess, for Lockie Cowan to really improve his football. And it's just been
Mm.
a lot of media going towards
Mm.
Lockie Cowan. I don't know why.
Mm. Mm.
But I've just seen a lot of stuff coming on my feed on Instagram or whatever it
Yeah.
is about Lockie Cowan. I'm just really excited because he last year it was more the freedom that he had with the footy, but also his lockdown work
Yeah, it was
is
great.
actually quite underrated.
Yep.
Um, and I think we say how great like an Alex Chincotta is in that lockdown role, but Lockie Cowan is probably like for like there because
Mm.
he's
Mm.
obviously it might not be as good as Chincotta as that lockdown role. He probably is in my opinion, but
Yeah.
there might be people that might disagree with that. But I think ball use wise,
Oh,
he's
100%.
an attacking player. So I think Lockie Cowan it really does open up an avenue for him with Nick Newman going out, and
Yep.
we speak about who's going to kind of step up and who's going to take the point like the super coach points and take the disposals off Nick Newman. I think Lockie Cowan can be that player for 2025. But I guess the next thing we'll touch on, Duff, is the ladder position
Mm.
for 2025 for the Carlton Football Club. So this is quite a tough one. This is the one that I haven't done yet. So I'm not too sure. I will think about it after you're done. But the ladder position for this year for Carlton, where do you think we will finish?
I think, yeah, I think for this year, my most important thing, just in the season, before I get to the position, is being a consistent home and away team. No blocks. No blocks. You lose one, you fucking get one back. You don't go two in a row. Good teams do not do that. Look at Sydney last year. I know they didn't win the premiership and people go, bah, 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 bah. They'll be good again. But you know how hard it is to be consistent every year and be in the top four and be pushing for a premiership. Look at Geelong. They're a consistent home and away team. And people go, oh, but they don't win the premiership. It's almost sometimes harder being a consistent home and away team. It
Yes.
actually probably is.
Yep.
You go from March to August,
100%.
different seasons, different injuries, different whatever. Whereas finals, obviously, it's a harder game, but it's a month block. It's a month is all you got to get right. But with home and away, that's our biggest question mark for me this year. Can we be consistent? Can we beat good teams consistently? I want to show up and go, yep, we're going to win. You know what I mean? I don't want to be going, oh, or Adelaide's playing well. No, we're beating them. So, position for me after my rambling, sorry, ladder position, and this ladder position will mean we are consistent this season, and it's third on the ladder. Third on the ladder doesn't is not talking about if we're going to win the premiership or not, but I think for us to push for a premiership and be a good team that we haven't been for long enough. I know we've been better, and you know we both know we can be better. So I think third will be a position that you can push a flag, and you look at Richmond; they've won three flags from third. So let's hopefully let's just get there, and then we can focus on finals.
Mm. I like what you said about the consistency. I think
Mm,
you're spot on there. The way that I say it is, and now I know this might be biased, but we've always said it, and I think when the mutual supporters actually have a look at it, I think our best football is the best out there.
yeah,
So in terms of consistency, if we are consistent, we are finishing first on the ladder.
yeah,
But my worry right now is I don't think we can be consistent. I think
mm,
2026 can be that consistency year because now this year you've got exactly what like what you're capable of. I know that we know like the past few years we know what we are capable of. We made a prelim
yeah,
in our 2023 and we probably realistically should have done better against the Lions in that prelim. But I just think right here, right now, I'm thinking we're going to finish fifth on the ladder.
yeah.
It's still going to be a good season, but I think there's teams right now like a Geelong, like a Brisbane. I think Sydney could also be around the
Yeah.
mark as well. I just think we can be one of those. We aren't going to be like really inconsistent. We're still going to be
No.
consistent, but we aren't going to be as consistent as them.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the year where we kind of know. I think it's going to be a really good season overall. I think the
Yeah.
teams, it's going to, like, know how last year the teams were shit? Like, there was no, like,
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
good team
No.
for the whole year. I think this year,
No.
I reckon we'll have 5 or 6 teams
Yep.
that are going to be good.
Pushing
Like,
for a top four. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Like I think
Yep.
there's going to be those teams that I just like the Brisbane's. I had to say probably like a Collingwood, Geelong, Sydney, Port Adelaide, but I think we can be more consistent than Port Adelaide right now.
Yeah,
Um,
and I completely agree. It's just that's the question mark. And if we can nail the consistency, I don't see why we can't win the premiership.
yeah,
For me, I think it's I don't like using it. Saying a premiership or bust, blah blah blah. But let's be real here. We're all thinking it, and we thought it probably unrealistically over the past few years. And people always tell me, whether it's mates or whatever, you say, oh, you always say you're going to win the premiership this year or whatever. I don't. I think this team's good enough now. And we haven't seen a team go through ups, downs, got themselves through. And like you said, it's just about if we can be consistent at the level of a Brisbane, Sydney, Geelong, we can finish first. And that's why I've got us third. I just think, like you said, there's going to be a lot of teams. It's going to be tough. There's going to be a 6 block of teams that can win the premiership, I think. And hopefully Collingwood are not one of them.
well, let's hope. But
Mm.
yeah, I think that's probably the last thing that we'll touch on for the ladder position. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I've got fifth, you've got third. I think we
Yep.
still will be one of the best sides in the comp, but I think we
Mm.
both will agree that if we are consistent, we can
Yeah. Yep.
easily be top four, but potentially push towards that
Yep.
um, towards that top two, realistically.
100%.
So
Yep.
that is the ladder position segment done. And the last thing we'll kind of touch on, well, the second last thing we'll touch on is the surprise package. So it's a bit similar to most improved, but it also could be a little bit different because it could be a person that's an outside chance to play, someone who we may have picked up last year in the draft to really
Yep.
have an impact this year. So your surprise package for 2025, who have you got?
This is a big one. Not a big one. Not a big surprise. He'll play every week. He'll play every week. It's going to be Nick Haynes. And I think this will, in 2 years' time or after this season, if we win a premiership or whatever, it'll be one of those moves where you go, no one even spoke about it. Everyone was talking about how he's old. If we can get 2 great years out of him, which I think we will, I think it will help Wiedering to a T. We haven't had a guy accompany Wiedering really that well,
Yeah.
have we? Let's be real here. We've had Lewis Young, and then we've got like McGovern does pretty well, but he's not that second. We've never had that second tall, and he's an interceptor, and he's played 200 games for a good team. He's played finals. Nothing is going to worry him, and he's going to be playing with the best defender in the competition, mind you. So I think Nick Haynes is going to be. I am so excited to see how he goes because he's just one of those guys that no one's talking about.
Mm.
No one, even our own supporters aren't. Everyone's talking about Jagger. Everyone's talking about, how's Charlie going to pull up, whatever. He's the man, mate. I seriously think he'll have a huge year, Patto.
Yeah, I like it.
Mm.
I do like it because I'm one of those people that when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, he can be one of those players. Yeah. Um, God, now I'm actually like wanting to go Nick Haynes.
Mm.
Because now that he's got that opportunity to play as that
Yep.
position that he's always wanted to play, and he didn't like he had it for most of his career at
Mm-mm.
Giants, but he kind of fell out of favor towards the end
Yep.
of his career there. And then he realized, well, there's an opportunity now at Carlton because I know I can be the second tall there,
Yep.
which is exactly what he wants to play. So I mean, I really do like that. My one that I'm going with, might be a bit of an outsider. Jackson Binns
Okay. Yep.
on the wing.
Yep.
So that's only off going. That's only going off. Holland's moving back.
Yep.
And I really like the formation of the three wingers. Blake
Yep.
Acres, Sam Doherty, probably next in line is either Matt Cottrell or a Jackson Binns.
Yep. It'll be
And
between those two.
even like one of the Campo twins as well.
Yeah.
One of
Well.
those guys.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be Binns and Cottrell to start the year in terms of who has that spot. And sometimes it's hard for a guy like Binns to crack in because do you just go the not the safe option, but do you go the more trustworthy option in Cottrell, or do you go, take on Binns? But yeah, they look like size wise, I was a bit like, wow, like these guys actually, because one of them's an inside, outside
Yeah.
kind of mid, and one of them's an inside, one of them's an outside. So I still don't know which one's the other. So I've got to get that right before round one comes around. But those are good names to pull out. But yeah, I think Binns, obviously coming off the back of another 2K time trial win, I think he's a solid chance.
Yeah, I think Lucas is the inside one. And I
Yep.
think Ben's the outside
Yep.
one by memory.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that could be completely wrong.
Mm,
I've got the
mm.
choice of two, and I've got the other one wrong. So I'm pretty sure Lucas is the inside one. I think Lucas is the. Oh, now now
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not too
No,
sure.
I think Lucas is the better one, isn't he?
Yeah, I
But who
think.
knows who the better one is? Let's
Yeah,
be real.
exactly right.
It's you're starting from scratch again. You're at AFL level, so no, I think that was a good name to pull out.
So I'm going Jackson Binns, and I really like once again what you said about Nick Haynes. So the last thing that we'll touch on before we start to wrap up the episode for the first episode 2025, before we touch on some practice matches coming forward within the next few weeks, Daffy boy, big call for 2025. Now, I didn't even have mine yet.
No, I don't either.
So I'm kind of throwing to you to see what you say. And I reckon you're
Mm,
probably waiting for me to say mine first so you can say yours.
mm,
So
yeah.
very tough. But if you
All right.
have something in your mind right now, it could just be a most improved or something, whoever.
Okay.
But your big call for 2025, what are you going to say?
I don't. I've had a lot of big calls recorded by mates who are probably listening to this right now over the years, and some of them I'll take it on the chin. They've probably bit me in the ass, right? But this one's more of a player-based big call. First three games of the season, I think I don't know if this is a big call. I think it's a big call. There's big teams are playing. I think we've got Richmond, Hawthorn, Dogs, first
Collingwood.
3 weeks.
I think Collingwood fourth. I think Collingwood's fourth round, I think.
Yeah, fourth round.
Yeah. So big.
I think Jagger Smith. I think so you go 4 games. How many Brownlow votes can you poll? Possibly 12. That's your best in the first 4 games. Not that big. It's not that big. No, I think he will poll 7 to 8 votes in the first 4 games of the season. And I think he'll poll high in the first round. I just think he's going to be one of those guys, unafraid. He's got the pace. People go, ooh, the umpires go, oof, this guy's going through packs. Obviously we have a biased view on these things, but I think he's the best player in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was taken at a pick that I don't think he even should have got there. And I think that's why that's why Carlton got 3. They went, oh, Richmond are going after Lawler. Let's just absolutely cash in here. So don't want to put pressure on the kid. If he doesn't end up with 7 or 8 votes, I don't really care as long as we win. But that's just my big call, and that's what came to my mind. I just think he will poll, and that is a lot of votes. But hopefully he does well.
I mean, that's why it is a big call.
Yep.
Like, we're not
It's probably
say,
unrealistic. It's probably unrealistic, but
exactly right.
If it pays off, then the listeners can, shoot me a DM and go on your daff.
Yeah. Like my big call is probably going to be Charlie Curnow leading goal kicker. Which is Pretty unlikely, Duff. No. So my big call, and I've been thinking about it, and I don't know if this is a big call,
Okay.
but I think it is.
Okay.
Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow, top three in the Coleman.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a big call? Because I can go with another one. I've got
No,
another outlandish one,
I
but
think it's a whatever the level below big is. No, 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 not. It's a big call, but it's not like
yeah.
you know what I mean. It's a good call. I think last year they were close, apart from the injuries and stuff. But if they play the whole season and
Mm,
they play like we said, combining for however many goals, then you could see them both. If they're both in the top three, will win the premiership.
yeah,
But we won't lose many games, I don't think, unless they're the unless they're the only blokes kicking goals. So if they're kicking Tetton every week and we're losing, then there's an issue, Patto. But
yeah,
I like to hear your final big call. And also, if you're listening, type in your big call for 2025
yeah.
right now in the comments below because I like to see what people. Sometimes people can be outlandish, but sometimes they land. So you just don't know. You just really don't know.
Exactly right. I mean, if you are listening right now, just we will actually say like write down your best and fairest, most
Yep.
improved, ladder position, surprise packet.
Mm.
Don't know why I wrote down package. Surprise packet, and big call for 2025. So if you are listening and you do want to comment, and even if you aren't a Carlton supporter, you can even write down AFL in general, but
Mm.
Brownlow, Coleman, whoever. So make sure to comment what you think. But yeah, so my other big call, and I, this is another one I don't think is overly outlandish, but when you think of it, I think it actually is.
Okay.
And it's Adam Chera, All Australian.
Yep. No, that's a big call.
Yeah,
No, that
I
is a
think
big
it
call.
is.
That's
I
yeah, that's a big call.
yeah,
And I think he can get there. But yeah, if I'd imagine a lot of people would think, "Oh," to that.
yeah,
But I actually agree. I think he'll be pushing in the squad
yeah,
if he plays the whole season. But it is a massive call considering the last couple of years. But
yeah,
his abilities, that level. But it's more the longevity and the consistency, I think, for mine. And it's consistency the whole way around the board
yeah,
with every player on the team. And if we can just nail that consistency where you roll up, you're playing Hawthorn round two and you just unfazed, you just knock them off. It's not like a hurdle. Don't treat it as a hurdle. Just treat it as a barrier you have to break down. So, yeah, no, I like those calls, Pato.
yeah. I'm more thinking of it as like, how is he going to get into the All Australian if like Patrick Cripps performs and Sam
Yeah,
Walsh
yeah,
performs?
true.
That's how I'm seeing it. I think he's well and truly got the talent to do it, and I think he's got
Mm,
the capability to do it. But
mm,
I'm more just, I think an opportunity has to kind of open up for Chera. And
yeah,
I don't know what that could be. But 2023, when he was playing his best football,
yeah.
it was just a different, it was something that we haven't seen in a few years. It's probably, this is another big call, but it's almost like a Chris Judd from a few years ago. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
haven't seen a player like
yeah.
at his best perform like that in
Mm,
like a midfielder within Carlton like that. And
mm,
I was so excited, and he probably still is one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player, because I just love the way that he goes about it. So I really do hope that he can get his body right, and he is in for a big 2025. But Daff, that is the last thing that we'll touch
yep.
on. The last thing that, well, I mean, there's one more thing that we'll obviously touch on, which is obviously the practice match at Icon Park via the St Kilda Football Club. Thank God it's not at Marvel, but even if it is at Marvel and we play them at Marvel this year, we are going to absolutely annihilate the St Kilda Football Club and probably send them back to the VFL. Who knows, Daff? But obviously, if you are free on the Feb 20, the 22nd of Feb, make sure to get down to Icon Park. That's not the televised one. We obviously had the televised
Yep.
one against the Giants, which is I think that's a week after.
Yeah, yep.
So
28.
yeah, so it's that one, and then obviously the Giants, and then obviously we aren't playing an opening round, but we will be playing round one against the Tigers. So huge few weeks. I think now they're really starting to get into a lot of match simulations. You'll hear a lot more coming out of the club regarding players who, dare I say, tearing down the track, Daffy boy. So very exciting times at the moment, and I think you can probably both tell when you watch our speak at the moment. We're just so excited to be back and so excited to see what Carlton bring for 2025. But Duff, before we wrap up the episode, is there anything else you would like to touch on before we wrap up the episode and say sayonara to episode 1 of 2025?
No, it's good to be back. It's obviously a journey throughout the year when you're doing reviews straight after heartbreaking losses or massive wins, or it's everything in between. You got big wins, big losses, small wins. And no, we're just happy to have everyone on board, listening to us. Last year was a big kind of skyrocket in terms of, but nothing's all about numbers, but just, seeing a bunch of people engage with our stuff's really good, and it definitely encourages us to do more stuff, and it definitely encourages us to do a review at 12 or 1 a.m. in the morning after losing to Collingwood after a missed kick after the siren. So if we can get if you guys can get us up for that, we can get up for anything. But yeah, no, I'm keen, and I think for me, I think this is going to be a push towards a premiership this year. So I think it's our time. I think it's our time, Patto.
Yeah, those moments when a certain someone would stay behind at the game to do a
Yeah.
review, not looking at anyone in particular, Duffy boy.
Uh,
But yeah, it just, I think that's why we love to do it, because yeah, kind of look back at that and be like, fuck, like how we felt at that time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
honestly, like 2022 where we lost to
Yeah,
the
well,
Pies, and oh my god,
God,
like,
yeah.
don't really want to look back at that ever in my life. But if you do want to have a bit of a laugh, what was a really good episode where we like ripped
Oh,
into them?
I
There was
think
one that was
some of
like,
those 2023 games, I reckon, early
oh,
might have been the Essendon one, I reckon, when we lost to them 2023. So if you want a good laugh,
oh, is that the one that we went to?
yeah, we're calling
Oh,
out, we're calling everyone out in the whole club. We're calling out the bloody guy who's the water boy. We're calling out every person in the whole bloody. It's got anything to do with that game, but that's why we're passionate. Obviously, we don't like bagging individuals, but sometimes there's some stages where you kind of just get out of hand and let it go. But no, we're keen. I'm keen, and I think it's going to be a very, very successful year, and hopefully the 30-year drought ends this year.
I do remember when I was doing the doc in 2023.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to go back for a laugh, Western Bulldogs, where we lost to the Doggies 2023. I reckon that could be probably the
Angriest.
angriest I've been
Yeah.
that I've been on an episode. I think
Mm.
you were okay,
Yeah.
because
I
I think
think.
you let it out the episode after, and I wasn't as bad. But I think
I was holding it in for some reason, and then Essendon killed me, and then we didn't lose a game for about 12 weeks. So maybe they heard us. Maybe the power of the podcast got within the four walls of the footy club. But no, we're excited.
well, hopefully we can see some better moments this year
Yep.
within the Carlton Football Club, but also bring some more moments for Bag of Chat content this year. So to every single blue bagger out there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That's usually what I say. But also another thing that we will be saying is make sure to get around the merchandise. I'll say it again. It is in the link. The link is in the description of this video, but it's also in the link. It's also in the bio of our
Yep.
Instagram page. So make sure to get around that. We'll probably keep that up for a few days, and then I'll get back to the link tree and put that back on the bio, but you can also access the merch on that
Yep.
as well. So make sure to get around that if you do want any merch. We have all sizes available, so make
Mm.
sure to look at that, and make sure to get around our podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. There's a few out there, Daffy Boy. Make sure to get around that, and also check around our socials, because we will be well and truly keeping up with the content the next few weeks before our round 1 game against the Tigers. But to you, Daffy Boy, it's a blast to be back
That is exciting.
on the episode, and to every single blue bagger out there,
Ah,
the
the
baggers.
baggers.